ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्तिः 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 हरिः ॐ. Now, Yajnavalkya, as the story goes, a setup for this dialogue, as the story goes, would like to take sannyasa, not an ordinary thing. Sannyasa is a monastic life, and this is not taken, this kind of a life is not chosen because one is having a hard time in the world. As they say, when the going gets tough, the tough get going, and sannyasa happens to be a convenient catch all so that one can drop out of society very happily and then not face the difficulties that confront one in one's life. That is not sannyasa. Sannyasa is the natural outcome of spiritual growth, a growth which has been initiated through cultivating a disciplined lifestyle and through the knowledge of oneself as limitless, whole, and free. So, the lifestyle of sannyasa is a natural culmination of these two things, the vision and the life that is led, which is in a manner that is conducive to gaining the vision. So, this Yajnavalkya is very famous. We are told in the Upanishads. He was a great scholar, a great orator, and an equally great debater. Now we have live streaming of movies and everything. In those days, they used to sit and debate with scholars on important topics with other scholars. And sometimes when they saw Yajnavalkya come into the assembly, they would just get up and run because they knew that they were not a match for his oratory skills. At other times, he would come along with his students, eager to discuss a few topics in the matter of Vedanta, philosophy, whatever it is. And then he would tell the debate had not yet begun, but then the prize of the debate was all the cattle owned by the king. Cattle means there is land involved. Cattle was a way of looking at one's riches in ancient India. So cattle means there should be as many groomers and as much land to feed the cattle. All that was part of the package deal. So that is what the king had announced, that okay, if you win this debate along with others, this scholar, you can have all the cattle, the grazing ground, and the staff to take care of them. So when Yajnavalkya walks into the palace of Janaka, the king who had set up this debate, he says to his students, "Please walk away with all the cattle. The debate is yet to begin." The debate hasn't even begun. And Yajnavalkya says, "Please take away all the cattle to the ashram," his own ashram, because it's a long way. And then, the cattle will get lost at night and they'll get disoriented. So please drive them slowly towards my house right now. This is the Yajnavalkya, very famous, here, having more of a intimate dialogue with his own wife. And we are told that he had two wives, Maitreyi, and the other one whose name is Katyayani. She doesn't feature in the Upanishad at all. So perhaps when he went to take permission from her to go have a life of to lead a life of sannyasa, maybe she said good riddance, we don't know. Or maybe she didn't have a problem with it. But when he comes to Maitreyi, that is when the dialogue begins. And so, just to give you a flavor, let us read a little bit of the Upanishad. Maitreyi iti hovacha Yajnavalkya. Yajnavalkya said, O Maitreyi, Udyasyan va are aham asmat sthanad asmi hanta hantate anaya katyayanyantam antam karavani iti. O Maitreyi, my dear one, I wish to push off from this place. Asmat sthanat, from this place, I wish to push off. And it's very clear. Wish to push off means I'm not going for a weekend, somewhere in the woods and then coming back. I'm not going skiing. I'm not going, for a little holiday. I'm going to go away for the sake of this knowledge. See, there are many kinds of, before we go further, there are many kinds of sannyasa. So many different kinds of sannyasa are taken. But generally, the kinds of sannyasa, the monastic life, that is discussed, is divided into two. The first one is called Vividisha Sannyasa. Veditum Ichha Vividisha. So, the first sannyasa, the first kind of sannyasa, which is the most common one, is the sannyasa called Vividisha. What is this Vividisha? Vividisha means the desire to know about oneself as Brahman. And the desire to know about oneself as Brahman, when it is very strong, then what happens? All the other duties and responsibilities, etc., come in the way, and one feels like one doesn't have enough time, or the desire to know about Brahman really takes over, and one has no interest in anything else. So this is called Vividisha Sannyasa. Most sannyasas are like this. Occasionally we will have the other kind called Vidvat Sannyasa. The sannyasi, the one who takes to a monastic life, who already knows that one is Brahman, who already knows that. And then yet why is this life taken? This life is taken because one wants to revel in that glory of oneself as Brahman, which is called here as Nididhyasana, that we will be seeing towards the end. Nididhyasana. And so, which is contemplation. And so therefore, so these two lifestyles, the two kinds of sannyasa are there, broadly defined. And so therefore, it is very easy to see what kind of sannyasa is Yajnavalkya taking. It is not Vividisha Sannyasa because he is extremely erudite and he knows this teaching. He knows that, and in fact he is a teacher in his own right. And so it is the other sannyasa, Vidvat Sannyasa. He wants to go to the forest unencumbered by any of the responsibilities, starting with the morning. Did I pay the milk bill? Is the electricity bill too much? What should I do? The phone company will shut off the phone. I think I have to do something. Do I really need a landline? Let me think. And all these things are there. And so this is this is sometimes a encumbrance because one is not in that place any longer. One is not in the place of paying phone bill because one is not interested in having the phone anymore. The phone, according to them, it should be called phony. No, it is not a phone, it is phony, and so therefore it is not needed. So the desire to be one with the what one knows, to revel in the glory of oneself, to revel repeatedly in the words of the Upanishad seems to be more of a priority rather than the day-to-day life. This is the reason Yajnavalkya wanted to go away, into the deeper into the forest. They were already in the forest, so now he's going to go deeper into the forest. So he says, Udvai Yasyan, I'm going, I feel like going off. This is his way of taking his wife's permission. And then Asmat Sthanat, and lest the wife think that, oh, OMG, what am I going to do? How am I going to pay the electricity bill now that you are off on your merry way? He quickly says, Anaya, Katyayanya for you, and Katyayani, Katyayani is the other wife, Antam Karavani. Antam Karabani, doesn't mean put an end to you. No, divide my estate. And estate he really had. He had so much land, so much. He was a very rich man. So I want to divide my estate and make a final settlement between you and Katyayani. So you will be comfortable. You will not lack for anything. In fact, you may not even miss me. Maitreyi was very dear to him, so he has a very intimate conversation with her. And why is she so dear to him? Because she herself is extremely erudite and wants to be with him at every step. And then what does she say? Sahovacha Maitreyi Yannuma iyam bhagah sarva prithvi vittena purna syat katham tenaham amritasyam iti. So she's very dear to him because of her reply. Very beautifully she replies. She doesn't indulge in histrionics. She doesn't say, oh no, I have been left. What did I do wrong? Was your coffee not hot enough this morning? Did I not wash your clothes properly? What is wrong with my cooking? She doesn't indulge into any of those histrionics. She's not interested in all that at all. And what you have is a very, and none of that dysfunctional, codependent love. Neither does she, whatever goes for love, codependent kind of an attachment. Neither does she take the track of blaming him. You were never a good husband. You went off to debates everywhere. You're just interested in collecting cows. You just keep on wanting to have cows, no pun intended. And then you just want to do this. That day also, you missed our, last year also, you missed our anniversary. And the year before that, you missed my birthday. And this is what you are. So now you want to go. What is wrong with you? She doesn't go on the offensive. She doesn't go on the defensive. Very, very interesting. This shows her growth. This shows that she is in every way a match for him in terms of emotional growth, spiritual growth, etc. And so her response is something which is the response of an adult, not the inner child. It's a response of an adult. And what does she say? Yannuma iyam bhagah. So, O revered one, O respected husband of mine, that which you are going to leave to me in terms of your estate, I'm going to get half of your estate. Very nice. If I'm going to get half of your estate, then let us pretend, let us suppose that your estate was the same as the entire universe. The whole earth was your estate. Let us presuppose that for now. Let us just suppose, let us imagine that what you're leaving me is not like 5,000 cows and grazing land and people to take care of the cows. What you're leaving me with is an entire earth. Sarva prithvi vittena purna syat. So you're leaving me the entire earth with all her natural resources, her animal resources, her mineral resources, all the gold, everything belongs to me, let us say. Katham, what? Tena aham amritam syam. Will I get that same thing which you are going in search of? Will I get that with all the wealth that you are leaving me? This is her question. Look at the maturity here. And then Yajnavalkya realizes that he has done, the Upanishad moves very slowly. We have to fill in the blanks. That is the typical Upanishadic style. So Yajnavalkya, realizes that he has underestimated her. He thought she'll say, oh good, I'll buy some nice saris with whatever you have given me and then I will be the best dressed person here. Yes, I'll miss you once in a while, send an SMS, buy. No such thing. And here she knows the value of money and she knows that while money is useful, but at the same time, it is not going to buy what the thing that Yajnavalkya, her husband, is leaving it to go to the forest. It makes her suspicious. Why? Because if this person has so much money and he says, I'm leaving you and I'm leaving you all this money and I'm going to repair to the forest, naturally the question comes, what for? What is it that you're going to get out of moving to the forest? That will I get the same thing sitting here with all of the money that we have? And Yajnavalkya could have just said, yes, you will get Amritam and gone off. But he is an honest man. Na iti ho vacha Yajnavalkya. Yajnavalkya said, no. You will not get immortality. You will not get limitlessness. Limitlessness is not up for sale the last time I checked. Why? Because it is you. It is your Swarupa, it is your nature, it is very much you. There is nothing other than this. This is all that there is. It is you. There is no other thing. There is no limitlessness for sale. There is no limitlessness that you can buy in the marketplace. There is no such thing called limitlessness and immortality that is applicable at the level of the body, mind, sense complex. In fact, that limitlessness which one craves is at the level of that I, which is self-evident, which does not need to be validated as an existent entity. I know I am and I crave to be limitless because somewhere I know I already am limitless and I miss that. I miss living that in the everyday. So Maitreyi asks the honest question, all this wealth you're leaving me, will I get that? No. But he continues. He says, Yatha eva upakarnavatam jivitam syat tathaiva te jivitam amritatvasya tu nasha asti vittena iti. Yatha means just as all the people, upakarnavatam. Upakarana means the people with means. Karana means, upakarana means lots of means that they have access to. So just as the people with means live, jivitam syat, just like the life of the people with means is there, so too your life is also the same. You need not count every penny and pinch everything. You can buy whatever you want. You can order whatever you want online. You can have parties. Once the pandemic goes, you can travel. You can do whatever you want. So, just like there are people with means in the universe, and then you will also be a person with means, you will be a very rich lady, and you can command domestic help, you can command all kinds of vehicles, horses, cattle, all these things. That is how your life is going to be. And then, what about limitlessness? Yajnavalkya says that, my dear, you can kiss it goodbye. You can kiss limitlessness goodbye. Why? Amritatvasya tu na asha asti vittena. Amritatvasya, that limitlessness, that immortality with which you are craving, which you would like to discover as you, which you would like to have, is not, there is no hope of that through money. Because both of them belong to two different orders of reality. What are they? Money is finite. You know this even without attending a Vedanta class because it doesn't last. It doesn't last at all. And then you go to the grocery shop and come out with a small bag, and then and then what? Everything is gone. In America, there is a chain of shops. What are their names? uh, Whole Foods, Whole Foods, and they have all organic things and all these things. So you go into Whole Foods and you come out with a small bag, and then what? $150 gone. And then what? I have renamed it whole paycheck. Okay, so this is this is exactly how it is. And so so it is so money is finite. That money is finite. You know this already. Just through living your life, just through making ends meet, everybody knows money is infinitely finite. It is more finite than anything else. Money doesn't last. In fact, money has to be protected from itself. This is a very strange thing. Money has to be protected from itself. That's why people keep watching those what are they called? Those squiggly lines. Stock market. Sell, buy, sell, buy, sell, buy. And and you're saying this in your sleep also. And so this is what shows that money is finite. Money is finite. And what about infinitude that one wishes to gain? That is, of course, infinite. So the two belong to different orders of reality. That Amritatvam belongs to you. It is you, in fact, it is your nature. And when we say that, we are not referring to the limitations of the body, mind, sense complex. We are not referring to that limitation at all. Then what are we referring to? We are referring to that I who is the indweller of the finite body, mind, sense complex. That is who we are referring to. Okay? And so therefore what? So therefore the I that is here, the I in you, which is the same as the I in me, which is the same as the I in he, the I in she, the I in the alligator, the I in the big cat, tigers, lions, etc., the I in the serpent, the I in the small gnat. Gnat means a kind of a buzzing fruit fly. It's the same I. That I is limitless. And that I is as though indwelling this body, mind, sense complex, like even space inside a pot. So if you have a pot that is empty of any substance, sometimes people have small pots and they keep their coins and everything. Let us say there is nothing there. No coin, nothing. And so what is this here? This is just a pot. And then what does it have? Space. Pot space. Then what is bigger than pot space? Bigger pot space. Room space. Hall space. Like this you can have so many spaces. But really, all those spaces are just, just walls and rooms. They are as though all that is there is one space that is as though divided up into rooms, into closet, into rooms with names: living room, bedroom, bathroom, kitchen. These are all arbitrary things. So to here, this I, which is Satchidananda, which means it is the only thing that we can call existent, self-existent. All other things have to be, the existence of those things in the universe has to be ratified by you. You have to bring the pot to light. The pot doesn't say, Aham, Asmi, I am pot. It lacks the ability to say that. You say, this pot exists. And you also with the same breath say, I exist. What is the difference? The pot is an object whose existence has to be revealed by what? The only entity in the universe that is self-revealing, which is you. This you. So the I is self-revealing. Like I said in the earlier class, you don't need to, ask somebody's permission to ask if you exist or not. Please tell me if I exist. There is no need to do that, because that you exist is evident to you, and all other things in the universe become evident to you. You are that all-knowing. All-knowing means what you know what you know, and you know also what you don't know. Ontologically speaking, you are all-knowing. You are all-knowing. And then what happens as a result is that, this I is that which has to be understood. Like I said, the I is eclipsed, so to speak, by the not I. Since the I is not known, it mistakes itself to be something other than what it is. The ahankara, the ego, mistakes the I for that which it is not, and takes on whatever it is not as I. I am a mortal, I am small, etc. And so this is the fundamental difference between money or anything in the universe and I. They belong to two orders of reality. The I is called Paramarthikam Sat. Paramarthika means the absolute Sat, that which is totally self-existent. And then money belongs to the empirical reality where things are born and they die. They are born and gone, born and gone. In fact, the word Jagat, meaning this whole universe, its definition is Jayate Gacchati iti Jagat. Is born, is gone. That is the Jagat. And so therefore, this, so he says that Amritatvasya tu na asha asti vittena. Na asha asti. There is no hope of becoming immortal with the help of all this money that I am leaving you, or as you very well put it, even if you owned the earth's wealth, the wealth of the whole earth, there is no possibility of becoming limitless. A very unbecoming quest to become limitless. No possibility at all. And so what does she say? She has something, wonderful to say. Saho vacha maitreyi yenaham na amritasyam kimaham te na kuryam yadeva bhagavan veda tadeva me bruhi iti. So she responds. What does she say? Yena aham na amritasyam. That money which you are leaving me, by which, yena, by which I am not going to be immortal, yena aham amrita nasyam. Kim aham tena kuryam. What am I going to do with it? If I am not going to have limitlessness, if I'm not going to have immortality, if I'm not going to have this understanding that I'm infinite, if I'm not going to get that, then of what use is this money? What am I going to do with it? And this shows her maturity and her readiness for knowledge. One of the disciples of Adi Shankara, by the name of Sureshwaracharya, he wrote a Vartika, a kind of a commentary in verse for this Upanishad. And it is just a delight to study that commentary. And in that commentary, he just paints a very beautiful picture of a one extremely loving couple, and what are they doing? They, and then he also paints a picture of Yajnavalkya's sexism here. And he also says that, in those verses, Yajnavalkya say, eats his words, and he says, I always thought of you as completely efficient in everything you did. Never were my meals late. Always my clothes were well washed, ironed. You did everything that a wife could do, plus more. You were the most ideal wife. And of course, I took you for granted. Why? Because I saw you through the habitual lenses of how a well-tended husband sees his wife. Yeah, she's there, she'll always be there. Yeah, she'll do this for me. Oh, I don't have time to do this. Okay, just tell her, do this, and then it'll get done. And then, so this is how I took you for granted. And now I see that now I see two things. In the Vartika, Yajnavalkya says, the first thing that I see is, boy, I really need this contemplation to get rid of these habitual orientations that, of taking you, my dear one, for granted. The first thing is that I see. I see my own limitations. I see my own imperfections, my fallacies, my flaws. You have brought to me in a very, very loving way, without pointing fingers, without you blaming me, just by saying, what will I do with this money that you are going to leave me if I can't have what you have, what you're going for? And then the second thing I see, Yajnavalkya says after this, is that I see you with a new pair of eyes. I see you as a Brahmavadini, a potential Brahmavadini. I see you as someone who can not only know Brahman but teach it. I see you as a scholar. I see you as a companion along the way, a spiritual companion. And then he says something which is very beautiful. He says that, a wife is supposed to have half of everything. And now you are asking for that knowledge which cannot be halved. That means if I am this knowledge, if I am non-separate from this knowledge, that means you want the whole of me. So this shows that I am so well loved by you, and definitely you will gain this knowledge. So saying, he begins to teach her, and what he teaches her we will see in the next session. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadagya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you.